Well, hello, everyone. We are so happy that you're here with us. And as you can see, we are switching it up a little bit. Welcome to Paving the Smoother Way to Better Onboarding, an introduction to our training content library. And I am so thrilled to be here with you. So if we have not yet met, my name is Christy. I'm on the professional services team here at Tenstreet. My role is focused on helping our clients use the dashboard better. Okay, and so as a product expert, I have the privilege of working with some really cool internal folks who really help keep things going from day to day. And one of those people is none other than Gentry Simmons, who's on with me today. We are going to be tag teaming and really showing you our onboarding suite of products, but giving you the backstory, giving you the reasons why we created the content the way we did, and hopefully that will give you what you need to revisit your training and your onboarding processes, your remedial training, so that you can get ready for a really great 2025. Now, before I jump in, I just want to share a couple of very quick housekeeping rules. The first is feel free to interact with us. Although you're muted, you can interact with us by going to the GoToWebinar control panel, okay, that popped up probably somewhere on the side of your screen, but go there to the questions box, and at any point during today's webinar, just go ahead and ask whatever questions you have. We're more than happy to get those questions answered, so please do not hesitate to ask questions. Sometimes we'll cover it in just a minute and we'll let you know that, but again, we don't want you to hold back. We want this to be informative and educational for you, so interact with us. Now, the second housekeeping rule is this copy of this recording from today's webinar is going to be sent to you via email automatically in about 24 hours. So as you learn today's content, don't feel like you need to jot your notes down too quick. We want you engaged. We want you responsive to the content that we're presenting, and you're going to get a copy of the recording so that you can pass along some of the fun with other folks in your office, okay? And then the last thing is in the GoToWebinar control panel, like right where you're seeing my face, you should be able to see that there are some controls at the top. It allows you to control the zoom. So if you need to zoom into something on the slide or take a screenshot of something that we're saying or showing you, because we will do a demo, then you'll be able to do that. And so it looks like quite a few of you are jumping in. And so again, we're really, really happy that you're here with us today, and we are going to move along. So excited to really get this started with each of you today. Okay, so Gentry, as we move forward, I want you to go ahead and just show us a little bit about the agenda, what we're gonna exactly cover today.
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're located. And again, if we haven't met, my name's Gentry. I build out our training content library here at Tenstreet. And we have a really rich and resourceful webinar lined up today. I'm really excited about it. So to start, we're gonna explore the challenges of traditional driver onboarding. We'll talk about inefficiencies and some outdated approaches and how those impact drivers and carriers. Then we'll dive into the science of adult learning a bit and how we apply some of those key principles to our training development here at Tenstreet and how that benefits the learner. Next, we will cover the benefits of delivering mobile-first content to drivers. We'll then give you a full picture look at Tenstreet onboarding experience, the reasons to use Tenstreet for onboarding, and ways Tenstreet training can be used beyond that initial onboarding. And then Christy's going to give us a great live demonstration, walking us through how all this looks within the system. And we'll also have time for a Q&A session at the end, but please feel free to use that question box on the side panel to ask any questions that come to mind as we go. So we'll be covering a lot of ground today, so let's get right into it.
All right. Now, Gentry, that was great. And I love that we have a very packed agenda today. And we have a couple of, so we have a couple of polls. And I think we want to start with one because we want to know who out there, hold on, sorry, I'm adjusting my screen here. Who out there is with us today? And so we kind of want to ask a poll. I'm going to go right now. Which question I want to go? Okay, I want to do this first one. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. So you'll probably be able to see that in a second on your screen. But I want to know, like, how right now, how do you currently deliver online training to your drivers at your company? So you have a few more minutes, just a moment or two. Oh, excuse me. Oh, wonderful. Okay, only 46% of you all have voted. We love some more participation. Oh, I love this. Okay, and I feel like singing the Jeopardy music here. I'm going to give you all a few more seconds to vote. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Oh my gosh, we got about 82% of you all. And so we're going to go ahead and share those poll results. Give it just a second there to pop up on your screen. But it looks like the majority currently already use Tenstreet's training content. That's really cool. You deliver a lot of training in person as well. And then at number 3 here, they use an external training provider. And then last but not least, internal resources to build online content. Wow, Gentry, I would have never guessed that.
I
How cool.
know.
Yeah, what great results. Thank you so
These kind of
much for
responses.
participating with us. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hide those results there. All right, well, Gentry, we can ask the other question whenever you see fit, but for now,
Yeah.
we can go on to some more of the content.
Yeah, so let's start by discussing the challenges of traditional driver onboarding. When looking at a driver's life cycle at your company, onboarding is a particular time that holds a lot of space and opportunity for that continual refinement. And I think it's really important that we first acknowledge that the process of onboarding drivers naturally holds a lot of challenges, and especially if that process involves quote more traditional work. There's a lot of moving parts. You have forms you need drivers to complete. You need to gather copies of their license and other documents. You need to administer training and all of these other tasks, all while knowing that even getting a driver to this point in the hiring process is really meaningful. And so you want to create this positive onboarding experience and make a good first impression while also covering a lot of ground, because a lot you have a lot to do to get them to get started at your company, and both you and the driver want to get started, and that's all really challenging to juggle. But traditional manual processes, often in-person training, because that's a big piece of onboarding, can create delays in onboarding, making this all even more challenging than it already naturally is. So I want to cover first and take a pause. What do we mean by traditional onboarding? We're talking about multiple day on-site orientation that may include processes like filling out all paperwork in person. You think about all the documents you need drivers to complete before they get seated in a truck. Also before the driver or bringing the driver to a local clinic for their physical and drug screening and waiting for those results during those orientation days. All training on company policies, hours of service, ELD use, safety policies, company benefits, all of that is conducted in person in a traditional onboarding setting. And then also the driver's task completion is tracked in a spreadsheet or some other tracking system requiring manual work to be done. So since we're talking about in-person onboarding, let's go ahead and launch that second poll. We're going to ask, how many days is your in-person orientation? And we'll give a couple minutes for those responses to come in. Oh.
Mm. No, hold on.
That poll closed. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how it closed. Oh my gosh.
Well, we have a couple people chiming in the questions with their response, so I appreciate that.
We had a little technical difficulty. It clicked.
Yeah.
It looks like only 13% of you were able to vote. And of the ones who have voted, it looks like 1 day, 2 days, more than 3 days is 6%. But let's go to the chat. Yeah. Okay, Allie said more than 3 days, 1 day. Anyone else want to chime in the chat? Okay, Sandy, thank you so much. Yeah, a couple more. Thanks. Sorry, the poll didn't work out as we'd expected to. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for chiming in for that, guys. And even if you didn't get your response in, just kind of reflect on that as we move forward. So a picture that comes to mind when we're talking about these more traditional approaches to onboarding is like moving through mud. You know, having a driver fill out forms by hand, all your hours of training are done in a classroom setting, not having, that quick, meaningful way to communicate with drivers during this phase, that all contributes to this sort of cumbersome, rough process that limits the time you could spend building relationships with drivers. And these delays can decrease a driver's positive connections with your company. We know that how onboarding goes for a driver not only contributes to their decision to join your company, but also that decision in the period that they stay with your company. We know there's a close connection between onboarding and how long the driver stays at your company. There's also a large cost associated with holding all your onboarding in person. If you factor in the cost of hotels, lodging, the cost of trucks sitting empty, there's a greater amount of time spent in orientation that adds up to a significant amount of time or money over time. And lastly, traditional onboarding makes it difficult to track training progress and compliance. There's a lot of tasks associated with onboarding. And when you multiply that by however many drivers you have going through orientation, that's a lot to keep up with. And it can be difficult to track their completion of potentially dozens of tasks when you factor in forms, training, and when you don't have a clear way to see their progress and items that have been completed with each driver, that can be really difficult. So let's narrow in and talk about training on the next slide. So this is my bread and butter. We know a time-intensive piece of onboarding is training drivers. And with the driver spending a meaningful time of onboarding with training, it's important that this is a valuable experience for them. So in creating a more valuable experience for drivers, this means delivering training that's engaging and effective. So we see effective training being rooted in principles of adult learning. And when we talk about adult learning, we're essentially setting apart how and why we learn now as adults versus how and why we engaged in learning as school-age children. It seems really simple. So there's many theories and frameworks around adult learning, but we like to focus on a few core principles. So first, we as adults need to know why we're learning something. Adults are more likely to be engaged if the learning is directly relevant to their lives. And that's because we have a limited amount of time now. We don't have the hours in a classroom every day devoted to just passively learning a big subject. In the same way, drivers need to know why training is relevant to their job and why they're taking it. And they have a limited amount of time to discover that. And then the second point I want to hit on about adult learners is they're often ready to learn what they need to know and they want solutions. So if you think about it, in school, we learn about broad topics, all different aspects of, say, algebra or statistics, things we don't necessarily need to know at that time to help us. But as adults, we engage in learning for a solutions-oriented reason. We want to learn about things that are going to help us. And we can use this webinar as an example. You know, you signed up to be here with probably limited time in your schedule because you're ready to learn about solutions. And so we understand that not every learner is going to be enthusiastically ready to take training. But rather they're ready to use the training to either achieve their goals or avoid consequences. And that's that internal motivation that drives learning for adults. And lastly, real quickly on adult learning, we want autonomy. We want the freedom and choice in how we learn. We want We know that we have some responsibility over the direction of the learning because we have responsibility over the outcomes of the learning. You know, there's serious outcomes when we don't learn something as adults. You can think about your IT training. If you don't practice those skills that you learn, or maybe preventative tips, then there's real consequences in that. So when we see these principles intertwined in the design of training, it's just simply more effective. And drivers' time is really valuable. We want training to solve a problem. We want learners to finish a class and be able to understand or execute something as a result of their time spent with the content. It's not simply a checkbox. It's something that they can apply to their everyday job. So that all leads us to engagement, and there's a variety of ways to encourage deeper involvement. With in-person training, you know, you can use open-ended questions, real-world application, polls, maybe even humor and games. Anything that makes the training time more enjoyable and memorable is going to engage learners. And with online training, you can encourage deeper involvement using similar ideas. And that concept of having some sort of investment of energy toward the training can be brought about with the use of interactive blocks that require the driver to maybe scroll or flip through flashcards, open tabs, select buttons on a graphic, sort and match cards, any sort of game. They can walk through examples and real world scenarios, watch short videos. Again, anything that brings about that engagement and interactivity is going to bring greater involvement, and then they're invested in that learning. And then lastly, effective training is designed to encourage practical application, and it emphasizes the main objectives and reinforces what needs to be taken away from that time invested with the training so they move on knowing particular points with certainty. So effective training leads learners to a point where they can recognize and get to maybe contrast what they're currently doing and how they currently think something should be done and what they should actually be doing or what they should actually do. So applying and bringing all of this back to driver training, when we talk about effective training and deliver it to drivers in a flexible, accessible way, it benefits both carriers and drivers. So we can go to the next slide and talk about that. First, there's a much lower cost in delivering training when it's not all completed in person during days-long orientation. You're not devoting resources and time to delivering purely in-person training. Instead, your new hires get that valuable face-to-face time when they show up to orientation. They have time to ask questions, get to know your company, meet your team. Those in-person physical meetings are more focused on complex topics and times to build relationships with everyone. So a second benefit of delivering online training as part of your onboarding process is you give learners flexibility. To an extent, they get to take that training on their own time. And when it can be taken on a mobile device, it shows you want the onboarding process to be convenient. You're meeting them where they're at. And we know here at Tenstreet about 80% of our training content is completed on a mobile device. So that's a big figure. It really speaks to how much value drivers see in being able to engage with content on their phone. Another way to increase engagement and see those benefits is making sure your training is accessible for learners. So that means giving them options. In our training, we really emphasize, they can maybe only read the content, they can only listen, or they can read and listen simultaneously, because we all have different learning preferences. So giving that option to drivers, again, speaking to that autonomy and that freedom that adult learners want. And a third benefit is moving training online reduces the time it takes to onboard a driver. It simply takes less time to deliver some structures of training in an online setting. And then the last benefit here is you're able to better track and document completion when you deliver training online. With the right solution in place, you can see a driver's progress through the training, pull a variety of reports around who's completed what, and when a driver completes a class, you have some way of automatically documenting that completion. And so delivering mobile first interactive content improves the onboarding experience. It improves relationships with your drivers, and we know this increases the likelihood of drivers satisfied with their choice to join your company. Um, and now Christy's going to give us a closer look at that onboarding experience using Tenstreet.
Thank you so much, Gentry. And I just want to echo everything you've already said, because there is a very strategic and systematic way that we've approached building our training content library, wanting to make sure that it was responsive to the needs of the industry while still, using the science and the psychology behind how people learn, so that you as our partner carriers would have greater success when onboarding your drivers. And so that's how it all ties in together. We thought through the details and have created a platform that is easy to use for your drivers. It's easy to manage for you as a carrier. And this is the Tenstreet onboarding experience. And so I feel like some of this will be a refresher for a lot of our attendees, but if you're just hearing it for the first time, welcome. You're in a really good place and a really good webinar to learn all about our onboarding platform. So we have over 270 courses covering essential training topics, and that list is ever growing. When we hear from our clients about topics and things that we don't yet have in the library, we're happy to take those suggestions and make sure we get it over to Gentry and her team so that she can figure it all out, do some of the research, and collaborate with our clients. Because a lot of times we find that, hey, if one client is asking about it, this may be a need for multiple clients in our client base. And so we don't shy away from that. So if you have suggestions, please let us know. As Gentry stated before, our training content, the onboarding experience through Tenstreet is mobile friendly, or like I like to call it, mobile first, and accessible for on-the-go learning. You have customizable training paths that are available to fit your diverse carrier needs. And these courses are designed to meet DOT compliance standards. And so we do the research, we're looking out for the regulations and the regulatory updates that are published so that we can get those updates. And I cannot wait to show you the demo where you can see the last time our training content was updated. You can see what topics it covers. We try to make sure that the content is easy for you to understand and manage so that you can schedule it out to your drivers and see the impact a lot quicker. Okay, the content is crafted to address specific challenges such as maintaining driver attention and increasing retention. So attention and retention were definitely in mind when we created our onboarding experience through Tenstreet. And then it's scenario-based content, right? And this ensures that drivers see the relevance to this training as they're doing their daily tasks, and it's fostering better understanding and application. There's some reporting that I can't wait to show you. And then the last thing we want to say is onboarding in the platform you're already using. A lot of your drivers already have the Driver Pulse app that they're using and that they have used to kind of manage their application process with you. And so it's just a natural next step, natural progression for the driver to also be able to complete their onboarding tasks directly in the Driver Pulse app or through the portal. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Now, I do want to mention here that I'm glad you're here, because for a lot of you who are already using our training content, this is a really great time to take a look at the training that you already have going out and kind of refresh that list. We think that these things should be like ongoing. We call it sharpening the axe. So even if you've already created some training courses in Tenstreet or some bundles and are actively using them, there's no time like the present to take some of the information you're learning today and integrate it into your processes as you prepare for a really good 2025. Now, before we get into the demo section, I do want to mention, like, why use Tenstreet for onboarding? It's easy to listen to us because we know the science behind it, the psychology behind it, and the real life application. But we have a couple of client testimonials that we wanted to share really quickly. So Bosch from over at KSM said, hey, when you consider the cost of paying for food and hotels for these drivers during orientation, Tenstreet really made it possible to save money. So if you're like every other carrier and you are looking to save money and to protect your bottom line, transitioning to an electronic onboarding experience is probably one of those ways that you can see some immediate impact and some real results. Again, spending the time that you have with your driver in person is going to be very important. Making sure, hey, that they're getting a good tour around, they're getting that red carpet treatment during orientation, not spending it completing forms and providing you documents that you could have already collected before they even got there, okay? And we're gonna show you how to do that. Now we have another testimonial to share. Why use Tenstreet for onboarding? And so this is from Angela over at Stevens. Tenstreet introduced the video training content library, send videos to drivers based on an incident or accident that calls for a certain type of training. And so what she's referencing here is what we call infraction action. Many of you already have our safety management platform, and it is integrated and mapped to all the CSA violations. And so if you are taking advantage of the safety management portion of Tenstreet, you likely already have seen the training in action. But the automatic training enables you to make sure that you are consistently following your policies. You are able to create programs and processes around the training content. And I love that she said video in here, because we like to just really call it content, because it's interactive and engaging in a way other than what a video is. So it's not just like any other video where a person has to click it, they can just let it play and just answer some random questions. It's a little bit of content and a quiz, and it doesn't have any trick questions. Oh my goodness, that's probably my favorite part. Now, I am not looking at the questions box, but I do want to remind you all that it's a really great time for you to go to the questions box and type in kind of what you'd like to see in the demo, or any questions that you have while you've been using the training content or our onboarding solution. Just please let us know. Okay, so now we're going to kind of talk about why use Tenstreet for onboarding. Okay, so we already have talked about these points a little bit. I'm just going to briefly go over them for sake of time. Cost savings, okay, efficiency gains. So again, we want to help you streamline your process so that you're always improving. This is about continuous improvement, which is one of the reasons why you're joining this instructional informational webinar today. You want to continue to improve and continue to learn and implement new processes, and this is a way for you to gain some efficiency, okay? Also, maximize the value of early engagement. Your driver, if you think about it, they are excited. They are ready to go. They are happy to be on board with you. And having a solid onboarding process where you're truly fostering a relationship and you've already collected all that other stuff is going to be very critical in you helping impact your retention goals as well. And then lastly, enhancing safety. Okay, so set a consistent standard for job expectations and ensure that the training aligns with your safety policies. Now, don't be one of those carriers that has a misalignment with, hey, we say this in our policies, but you can kind of do whatever you want to do. No, the people who are doing it right, who are doing it successfully, their processes and their manuals and their documentation is actually what they reinforce, and they kind of rethink it all so that it makes sense to the driver, the reason why they're being trained, the reason why they're being coached and further developed. So it all makes sense. So you already know me and safety culture. We love to talk about it because it's the big picture, right? And once a driver sees that you're not really holding up your end of the bargain, or that you don't care about your policies and your procedures, then they're going to also disrespect them. That's a little bit of human nature right there. Okay. Okay. So Gentry, I think you were going to talk about this, the using the training content library beyond just onboarding.
Yeah, definitely. So the benefits of our training content extend beyond that initial onboarding, like we've been talking about. As many solutions at Tenstreet operate, as they operate, the Tenstreet content library connects with other pieces of the system to serve other areas of that driver life cycle. So safety management is one of those areas that the training content serves to aid. Our CSA integration allows for automatic assignment of training to drivers to directly address reported infractions. So you know the driver is receiving training that's aimed at correcting that violation. And we offer classes on a wide variety of topics for drivers like health and wellness, stress management, injury prevention, a lot more. So it extends beyond that basic safety topic because we recognize a lot of factors influence driver safety. Compliance is another one of those areas of that driver life cycle that the content can benefit. We routinely monitor regulations like Christy was speaking to and industry trends to create like timely and relevant content. We work hard to make sure the training is consistent with updated regs and the library offers classes that are valuable for your fleet. An example of this is annually we do a road check class to prepare drivers for international road check, and we give that driver and vehicle focus area to the driver so they know what to expect and how to prepare. And then another area is ELDT. So in addition to our standard content library, we offer ELDT theory instruction for drivers seeking certain licenses and endorsements for the first time. And then lastly, the content library can be used for continuous driver development. And so those monthly and quarterly trainings that you assign out, you can create courses in the dashboard and send those out. And so you get that wide library just to create what is relevant for your fleet seasonally or what you want to emphasize based on behavior trends that you've seen in your fleet. And all of that feeds into the principle of just keeping relevant training in the hands of your drivers to foster that culture of safety. So let's see some of this in action. Christy, if you're ready, we can go to the live demo and see how you can manage some of these areas in the Tenstreet system.
Absolutely. I've been ready for this. Let's say, okay. Here we go. So we are in the Tenstreet dashboard, and we're going to do a real quick demo for you. And the idea is that we want to expose you to what the training content looks like, where it can be found, and what you can do with it with the tools that you likely already have access to. And so I'm in one of our demo systems, and I did see a couple of questions in here, and I think we're going to kind of answer those questions as we go. Gentry, if there's something real quick that you can type in there. And we also have a couple of handouts, but you can access those handouts by downloading them from the GoToWebinar control panel as well. Okay, so let's talk about where it starts. And so if you are looking to access the Tenstreet training content, any of our onboarding solutions, you're going to first manage them from within the tools menu, and we're going to go into task management. So task management is your hub for all things driver requests. And I'm talking about forms, which require electronic input from drivers, electronic signatures, training content that can be grouped in as well, so that you're sending all of the tasks that need to be completed by a driver at one time, and then uploader requests. We can traditionally call it document uploader, but it's the driver's ability to send you a copy of a document they already have, like their CDL, a medical card. If it's an owner-operator, there's some owner-operator specific document uploader requests, a copy of your vehicle registration, of the insurance, of the 2290 and things like that. Those can all be accommodated within the Tenstreet system. So let's take a look at the task management tool. So here we have the assigned tasks. It has its own filters where you can go to kind of manage and track all of the recent courses that have been scheduled. Under my courses, these are going to align with everything that you have already grouped together, ready to send to drivers. This isn't where you're actually going to send it. I'm going to show you that in just a second here. but I wanted to show you where you'll go to build the courses so that when you're ready to do it, you're not going to miss a step. Okay, so as far as the training content goes, I'm going to just kind of show you that you can have as many or as few courses as you'd like. Now, here is the Tenstreet training content. It is in one course, and every class is listed here as well. Now, for the sake of this demo, we don't have everything in here, but we did want to kind of just show you what the training looks like. Now, you likely have access to the Tenstreet training content, and in your dashboard, it probably says do not send, right? We don't want you to send that out to a driver because it has everything, more than 200 courses for training. We put it here so that number one, you can have visibility to see them. If you hover over the little question mark, you're able to see the estimated number of minutes it'll take to complete the training, how many sections it has, what the description is, and when it was last updated. So if you haven't taken a look at that recently, that's going to be really important for you. Also, this is where you can preview the training content. So if you click this little preview class button, it's going to open up your screen here. And then this is where you can take a look at exactly what the driver is going to see when they interact with the training content. And so there's some instructions here. And again, all of this is mobile first, so this works just fine from a mobile device. We tested it that way, and it is proven. And just like Gentry said, close to 80% of these are being completed on a mobile device anyway, so we wanted to ensure that it is a streamlined and smooth experience. Okay, so there's some audio clips.
Welcome to your distracted driving training class.
Okay, in addition to the person, like, you know, kind of just working through all of the prompts that are on the screen. Okay, so this is why we call it interactive. One way to think about distraction is to ask yourself, if something is drawing your attention and taking your eyes away from the road ahead of you, then the answer is yes, distracted driving. Okay. All right. And so again, I'm just working through this exactly as a driver would, and we want you to actually open that little preview and preview the training content as well so that you can familiarize yourself with what it's covering to ensure that as you use it, it's meeting your own requirements. Okay. Now for the sake of this, I'm just going to go ahead and exit the course, say bye-bye. I wanted to show you what the training content actually looks like. Now, some tips while we're in here. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm going to use this course more than I'm going to use something else, and you want to change the order that it's in. You can absolutely do that. You can kind of use these little arrows, the little three dots here to drag and drop it. When you open it, it's going to open up any classes that have been added to this course. If you go over to the right, you can edit any existing courses. I'm just going to edit mine. This is Christy's new driver training. And if I click this edit button, it gives me the ability to add other trainings. Again, if you were building an onboarding new driver training packet, you would want it to include everything that you need to collect from them so that they have time to get it into you. Let's not make it overwhelming and have like 30 individual tasks, but think through, you know, what you need to collect and what you want to collect in person versus what they can just either do as a training or provide to you before they even get there. Again, lots of times it is state-specific tax forms, other tax forms like the W-4, the W-9. If those are handled in another system, that's fine. But we also have the ability to collect forms, which are your own custom policies and procedure documents. And there's some other DOT standard forms that are available in here as well. So think through it, but if you need some help, reach out to someone from the Tenstreet team, and we're happy to discuss your specific account and how you can use the training content and the overall onboarding suite. Okay. And so the My Courses tab, you may see a lot if you're like me and you're in a demo system like that's as robust as this one. I'm going to go ahead and save that right there. Now, another tab that I think is just absolutely phenomenal is the Tenstreet training tab. So just to refresh, we are in the tools menu and we're still in the task management tool. We've navigated over to Tenstreet training. Now, we know that people don't have time to look through almost 300 training courses. That would be a really, really big deal for anybody. So what we've done is we've bundled them together, and we have like, you have access to them right here. So the soft skills bundle is all about communication and conflict resolution and dealing with stress. And so this is all grouped together for your benefit. If you're a hazmat carrier and need all those hazmat trainings, this is a hazmat bundle here. There's a tanker bundle and a supervisor training bundle. And the wonderful thing about this is that I can click add to my courses. Takes just a second here. And now this supervisor training has been added to my courses so that I can go in and customize it and start sending that out. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Here it is. And so now that it's moved from the Tenstreet training tab over to my courses, I can edit it. So I can click edit and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take out, oh gosh, I hate to remove empathy. It's just an example, everybody, just an example, and save it. So if there's something that you're like, oh, I like everything in this grouping, in this bundle, except for these couple of things, add it to my courses, then you can customize it to meet your company's needs. Okay. All right, so it looks like we do have a few questions, so we're going to go ahead and stop and get a couple of those answered before I show you more. Let's see what is in here.
Yeah, I wanted to address one real quickly that Dan submitted, compare using an LMS versus Tenstreet. So you can think about this section, this task management section that Christy's using as an LMS. And so the benefit of having that LMS within your Tenstreet dashboard where you're already doing things is that interconnectivity. And so when we talk about safety management, when we talk about compliance, all of these other uses where you can apply the training content and use it for your fleet, that interconnectivity is the benefit of having it within Tenstreet versus just a general LMS that you manage outside of Tenstreet.
Thank you so much. And Dan, that was a really, really great question there. Very great question. Okay, so Jeff asked about getting a Power Jack training course added. And so we'll get that over to Gentry so that she can collaborate with.
We maintain an enhancement list, so I really appreciate that. We'll add that in.
All right, okay. Okay, all right, so let me look through here. Okay, so someone, okay, Norleen said, I do not have the Tenstreet training courses under the My Courses tab. Oh, it's a separate tab. So Norleen, if you go over to the Tenstreet training, you should see it. And then again, this is where we've already bundled some topics together. And all you have to do is click add to My Courses. And then you'll see it over in the My Courses. So let me know if you gave that a try and how it goes. Okay. So when the training has been completed, okay, so this is really, really great. Now we are in one of my demo systems here, and I kind of want to show you all what it looks like. So I'm just going to go to Christy test. I'm terminated. No, okay. What do I want to be? And I'm going to go into process, add process, and I'm going to go into the schedule communications tool. This is a way to actually send the training to a driver to be completed. I'm going to click start, and I'm just going to choose the new hire onboarding. Now you can update the due date, the expiration date if you'd like, but the due date is typically set for 7 days from today, and the expiration date, otherwise known as the date they will no longer be able to access this training, is on 30 days from the current date. I'm going to click assign. Now at this point, the driver gets an email, and they're also going to get a notification in Driver Pulse if they use Driver Pulse. And so they have an option of how they complete the training that has been assigned to them. Okay, and so that is what it looks like. Now, one of the things that I wanted to also say is once someone completes the training, there's a training completion certificate that automatically files away in the documents tab. So you're able to see that right in here. And it'll say that it's a training completion certificate. And so there's a training that I've already taken and it's opened on the other screen. So give me a second. And this is what it looks like. It has a little Tenstreet badge here, certificate of completion. It'll have the driver's name and then the date and the time that they took that training. So that is what it looks like. Okay. Looks like there are a few more questions in here. Oh, that's a great question. So if you delete a Tenstreet training from the My Courses, does it go back to Tenstreet training tab or is it gone forever? So there isn't a way to delete the My Courses tab at all, right? But if you delete the, like, for example, this read-only forms, if I delete this whole course, I wonder if that's what you're asking, Lexi, let me know. Okay, but let me show you this as well. So once you've scheduled the training to a driver, you're going to be able to go into the subject tasks view so that you can see all of the tasks that have been scheduled to that person. One of them is our training. You have the ability to preview from here. So again, this is what I showed you. So if a driver calls in and they say like, hey, I'm stumped on this question, or I have, a conflict, or I have just general question, you can preview the content so that you can get where they are and kind of walk them through that process. Now, if there was something scheduled to a driver and they didn't need to complete it any longer, you could click this little trash can icon to remove it from their task list so that it's not required for them. Okay. All right. These are all some really, really, really good questions. All right. Let's see. All right. So we answered Angie's question about what the training looks like once it's completed. If they complete it, you're going to see a green check mark here, and you're going to see the date and time it was completed. The documents tab is going to have that training completion certificate. Okay. And so,
Sorry, Christy. I wanted to address Mandy's question. Are participants able to add certificates to LinkedIn? Currently, we don't offer that function for the standard library for drivers, but we offer training, and I don't know if Christy showed this because I was over here answering questions, but we do have a certifications tab in the dashboard, and so that's for users to take. And so we have a recruiter focused area, a safety focused area. I'd highly encourage you to go in and check that out. Have your team go in and check that out, and those can be added as certificates to LinkedIn. So not currently on one piece, but yes, on another.
All right, that is a really great question. Oh my goodness. Okay, and it looks like we have a few more. Okay. Okay, so now, again, we've been talking a lot about onboarding, just the general completion of electronic forms, documents, and training using Tenstreet. We've been focusing a lot on the Tenstreet training content, how it was created, that like everything that went into us creating it and what the library looks like. But again, we would be remiss if we didn't mention your internal users who are actually admins and users in Tenstreet every day, are likely not drivers, but they need training too. And so if you click your name in the Tenstreet system and go, well, I'll show it from here. You click your name up at the top and you're able to see certifications. And these are all internal trainings for your team to take. And so if you are an administrative user in Tenstreet, and you said, you know what, I want my team to be on the same page with, the verbiage and the terminology that we use, or you have someone who's just newer to the industry and could use a little bit of help. These trainings are designed for your internal users, and we have about 8 to choose from. I think there's Intro to the Trucking Industry, Essential Power Skills, Driver Recruiting Job Skills, and Effective Recruiting within Tenstreet. And then we have a safety version of Intro to the Trucking Industry, Power Skills, Safety Job Skills, and Effective Safety Management within Tenstreet. They have separate modules, and all you have to do is just click Start. It launches the training, and if you want to be able to report and track your internal users' completion of these trainings. If you wanted to make it a friendly little competition there, we even have some reports that allow you to track that information. That's really, really great. Okay. Okay, so now let's kind of, in this demo, I want to show you all some best practice tips to manage the courses that you are sending out, because again, there's multiple ways that they can be sent out. If we're talking about training, usually it's, hey, that person is coming in onboarding, we're going to go ahead and schedule it. We have some options there for how we can schedule those. Some people like to set up automation so that, hey, when I move this person into a specific status, it's going to send this onboarding course. If you want to get fancy, just reach out to your account management team and we can set up things like that that are going to be helpful for your workflow. Okay, I want to show you a couple of ways that you can track the completion a little better. Now, there is a training status report. So now navigate over to the reports tab. I just type in course because that always brings up the reports that I'm looking for. But this training status report is going to allow you to see any of those trainings that have been scheduled within a specific date range. And so you can sort and filter based on work list and subject status and which course it is and whether it is pending, meaning the driver has been scheduled to complete the training and they haven't done it yet. If it's complete, that just means it has been done, so yay, driver. If it's been canceled, the system automatically will cancel a training if it has not been completed within 30 days or by whatever expiration date you set. So it'll move it into that canceled status for you. So I'm just going to run that report really quickly. And as you can see, it totals it really nicely here and gives you a full list. And what I was looking for were trainings that have been completed, tasks that have been sent out and completed. And so I have a full list right here. Now, if I was looking for things that are pending, I could do a multi-select and do pending and complete, or I could just do pending, or I could even, get really granular and again, select the work list, select the different courses that I'm looking for, okay? And there's a whole lot in here, okay? That health bundle has been scheduled quite a few times and it is pending. For Rotten Roxy and Michelle and Lloyd Folger and, and Bob Peckham, okay? So if you're not already using this report, here's a little pro tip. If you click this little push pin icon, it is going to pin it to your links so that you can get to it a little bit easier. That's how you add reports to your links, okay? Now, I'm going to show you all something else as we prepare to kind of wrap up today. This is, I think, an underutilized feature that I always like to kind of shout about from the rooftops. If you are a primary user, you have a little more access to this, but follow along with me, okay? If you go to the Focus tab, you might have access to this onboarding widget. I want you to go ahead and click it if you do. Okay, now what this does is it allows you to see, set some parameters for what you want to see, what locations you want to see, whether the training is incomplete or complete. So those are what the filters look like. But this way I'm able to hover over it and I can see, hey, Brian Greer has completed 3 of the 87 tasks that he has been assigned. This other person has completed 1 of 47. Kendall has completed none, right? And it'll kind of give you some more information. When I click on this overall progress, y'all, it's really cool. It opens up the person's subject view and it takes me all just immediately to the subject task view. I'm able to see everything that has been scheduled, and I'm also able to see what has been completed. And so if it's taking Brian a little bit longer than I'd like for him to get those trainings done, that might be cause for me to give him a call. Hey, you're coming in for orientation in a couple of days and you still have quite a bit to do. Is everything okay? What's going on? I saw that you completed 1. Are you having any issues, right? And especially as you get started using the content, having that open communication with your driver helps them feel a lot more comfortable with completing the tasks that are assigned to them. But again, we see thousands of onboarding tasks, of training tasks completed every single day from drivers. And so by and large, it's not a problem for them. And so this is just another way for you to get a handle on what has been scheduled, what's been completed, and where your drivers are with completing everything. Okay. And yes, that was from the home screen, Katrina. So I went to home, focus, and under focus, there's onboarding. And if you don't see anything in yours, you might need to just open up the filters and take a look at those filters. Okay. Okay, lots of really, really, really great questions here. So now I am going to go back over here into our, into the program here. And I mean, this has been so great that we've been talking about. So we've done this live demo. And if you have more questions, let us know, because I am going to go through the questions after we're done. If there's something that we didn't exactly get to, we're happy to send it over to you. Okay, so we've talked through these questions, and we'll be remiss if we did not mention that registration is open for our 2025 user conference. It happens every year in Vegas at the Bellagio, and we would love for you to be our guest. So go to our website to get registered and get more information on User Conference 2025, May 7th through the 10th in Las Vegas. And that's where we usually roll out lots of enhancements and updates to our platform. And so again, if you are looking for like to really just dig in and use what you already have access to in a better, more profound way to see the efficiencies that can be gained, this is the way to do it. To be on these webinars, to take advantage of learning opportunities, and to come to our user conference, right? And so, Gentry, I'm going to pass it over to you so you can kind of give your takeaways and your last thoughts before I wrap us up for today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. There's been some great questions. I've been working through them, and like Christy said, we'll go through them to make sure we didn't miss anything. But I really appreciate your involvement in the polls, so we get to understand how you deliver training today and how many days that in-person orientation is. And I just really encourage you to, again, like we were talking about, there can be continual refinement and onboarding in a lot of areas of the driver life cycle, but particularly onboarding. And it's so important for that first impression to be a great one with drivers. And online training, delivering some of that training online can reduce that amount of cumbersome time that you spend in person delivering training on policies and your ELD, hours of service, any safety topics. There's just a lot to cover. And so delivering some of that online, pushing that online, it gives the driver flexibility, it gives you flexibility, it's a mutual benefit. And so I just really encourage you to look closer at that and see how online training may benefit your onboarding. And please reach out if you need anything else. You know, Christy and I are happy to be resources and guides, and we love talking onboarding. So we're happy to continue talking onboarding.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to say in our last couple of moments together. We know that we put a lot of information in front of you today for good reason. It's a very robust platform that has lots of options for you. And so if you have questions, please reach out to account.managers@tenstreet.com. Tell them, hey, I was on Christy's webinar. They've already been warned. Usually I'm like, go to your account management team, but really great group of people who are absolutely happy to help you. Sometimes you may don't have access to some features and we need to talk through that. Other times we might need to get an administrator's approval or primary's approval before adding some reports or tools. So it varies. We don't want you to feel like you have all this information and nothing to do with it. So please reach out to account.managers@tenstreet.com. They will loop me in if they need to, and they will let Gentry and I know about all the feedback that comes as a result of today's webinar. But I think it was a really great start to really getting your wheels turning with thinking through the strategic ways that you can use the onboarding platform to help reach your goals. Again, we designed this with some real deep psychological thoughts in mind. And so we didn't just kind of say, oh, let's just throw something together. No, this was very thought out, and we have wild success with using the Tenstreet onboarding and the training content and all of that. And so there was even some questions about stats related to completing onboarding and retention. We're going to get to those questions, and we're going to kind of dive into some more of the data. But the idea is that you're here and you've taken advantage of an opportunity to learn more, and we are so happy that you did. And we switched up the time a little bit, so I'm really proud of you all for joining us. But again, you'll receive a copy of the recording in about 24 hours. If you have any questions, please reach out to the Tenstreet team. We are more than happy to get those questions answered. For those of you all who we didn't get to, you'll be hearing from us. All right, have a great afternoon. Thank you so much again for joining. Bye-bye.